Hey YouTube, welcome back to UniXTCG, and today we are hopping in to talk about Dragon Ball Super Fusion World. And the topic for today is whether or not you should play a draw leader or a crit leader. And if you haven't realized, we are going to dive into that topic and discuss which is better, or pros and cons, because I don't think there's truly quite a better choice yet. With that being said though, if you want to join the UniX fam, I would suggest hitting that subscribe button, because we got a lot of content on One Piece and Dragon Ball to come in the TCG space. And then past that, I'm gonna set a like goal for the video for 100 likes. If we can break that, that would be amazing. Help the video trend and really get out some more awareness and hype for this game. Lastly, I do have a Dragon Ball channel. It's UniXDB, and I would love for that to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to kind of give me a Christmas present and enjoy the content already here, I would hop over there. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, click that subscribe button. I'll keep putting up more and more content. So with that being said, let's hop into the card view and let's talk about today's topic. So if you've been paying attention to lots of these videos going around or the spoilers on Twitter, you should know that we are pretty much set on the leaders we should be getting for the 4 starter decks, as well as the set 1 Awaken Pulse. Now, outside of a curveball like a promo, these should be the leaders that we are getting, so I feel pretty comfortable doing this video. But the 2 different archetypes that they've so far split the leaders into, right, are leaders that draw when they swing, and we've got a bunch of them up on the screen. It's like the generic when attacking, draw 1 card, okay? And following that, we have a new kind of baseline archetype of leaders that not only have critical as a keyword just on their front side, but also on your turn gain a permanent 5k to their attack power. Following that, most of these leaders do awaken in the pretty much the same ways. Most of these leaders are at 4 life, draw a card, flip them over, with the exception of 2, which is Broly, that takes an additional life and then you gain a energy, and then you have Ginyu, that's the only leader that actually untaps a singular energy and then flips over as his awakening effect. So when it comes to this, a lot of people will wonder which one's better. And if you've been playing Masters, you already know how crucial comboing is to the game. It's the lifeblood of the strategy. While you can combo offensively and defensively, which is something that a lot of One Piece players will not understand, because you are able to use your hands to press offense and defense. Now, when it comes to that, having cards is crucial. 5-card hands are synonymous with almost death, unless you're playing, Starter Vegeta, which is going to reward you for having a lower hand. However, this is kind of a crazy thing, because a lot of people would maybe assume that a draw leader is just automatically better. But that's what this video is for. I want to talk about the pros and cons of seeing these leaders and how you can maybe build decks around them. So for the sake of this video, and because I feel like it's the clearest to see in this particular color first, I think I'm going to just focus on red. As we get more cards, because if you guys have been paying attention to spoils, we don't even have the set yet. We have a single SR that was spoiled for the sake of showing us what an SPR looked like. So we are going to talk about these cards and then just kind of move on from there. So here we have 2 Gokus, and these Gokus, this is the starter deck Goku as well as the set 1 Goku leader. Now both of them have just the same effect: when attacking, draw 1 card and awaken, okay? 4 or less life, 4 life or less, draw 1 card, flip this card over. And then in comparison, in contrast, we are going to see Beerus, who is a red leader. He has the critical and then permanent your turn. This card gains plus 5k power, but also at 4 life or less, he's going to draw a card and flip over for awaken. So when it comes to these, it's very interesting, because the difference in them is that one is going to draw cards, whereas one is going to attempt to deny advantage. And what I mean by that is you are going to have to play differently depending on which leader you're looking at and which leader you're playing. For example, when you're looking at a draw leader versus a draw leader, okay, you guys are going to be both racing to just awaken. Your better effects are on your backside. Your front side is very, very generic. So when you turn your leader sideways, a lot of the times, if your leader is going towards leader, there is not really a reason not to take that if you guys are trying to get to some of the bigger effects, especially seeing that in red so far, nothing is costing too much. There's not really many cards that you're going to need to be like, wow, I need to make sure I make it to like the 9th turn to play. It's so far from what we've seen. So when a draw leader swings, essentially everybody goes up. The player swinging draws. The player who is getting swung on is taking a life to hand, and then they're getting closer to their awakening, which is going to provide them with a more powerful leader. Now, against a crit leader, you also do want to just end up pressing them as well. Like against a crit leader, you're going to be swinging just to make sure you get your draw, but you also want to push them out of the game where they can be at a comfortable position and or not be in a comfortable position to just sit there swinging at you with 20k crits. Now, when you flip it around to the perspective of a crit leader front side, you're not gaining these cards, but every time you swing at 20k, your opponent has to think of how they're going to handle this. Okay, if you're swinging into a draw leader, they may be seeing more cards, but they only have 3 options really when they get attacked. They either have to A, take the damage, which is bringing them closer to awakening, which is good for them, but it's also bringing them closer to losing the game, and you are also not getting the card to your hand, so you're losing a life, no advantage. The other option is dropping a 10k from your hand to go from 15 to 20. And mind you, this is only if your opponent does not combo, but I think that because you're not really drawing cards as a crit leader, you're gonna let that plus 5k static like effect carry you on the offense for your leader. But yeah, so at base without comboing, you are going to draw, or you're gonna have to discard a 10k to break the attack, or worst case scenario, you'll have to discard 2 5ks to not take that damage. So that's a lot. You get attacked by a crit leader and you have to take a crit damage, it goes to drop, or you have to drop 1 10k, or you have to drop 2 5ks. And that being said, your hand can minus pretty fast if you're not using blockers to try to stem the tide of aggression. Now, the other thing I want to get into is that when you're playing a crit leader and you're getting attacked by a non-crit leader, by a draw leader, you're okay taking most of this damage because you don't draw anyway. Your card for turn is a draw, and a card that you're being dealt damage from that's literally a draw. However, facing a crit leader, these things get very, very rough. Playing a crit leader, you're going to have to really think about how your deck is constructed, because against another crit leader, these same minuses are even more destructive because you don't have a leader that draws on its front. If a crit leader swings into a crit leader, you are literally about to have to discard those same amount of cards, 1 10k, 2 5ks, or take a crit damage, and you're not getting the additional draw turn. So you have a lot of nuance that's going to go between these. And mind you, despite me talking about all this nuance, it really is only existing for a couple of turns. So hear me out on this one. I'm going to put up on the screen now a couple of cards that are sorted out between the starter decks and the set so far. So from starter deck, the red starter deck, the Goku starter deck, there's this Krillin. He is a 10k combo. He is going to be a 15k dude. He's a 2 cost, and he's got a permanent plus 5k on your turn. But when he's played, he adds a card from your life to your hand. Next, you have Android 17, who is a bigger version of that. He costs 1 more, still a 10k counter, combo. Playing One Piece and Dragon Ball is long. Combo. And then he's also going to be able to go up by 5k, and then he's going to add up to 1 card from your life to your hand when he's played. And then lastly, we have the SR that was just spoiled not too long ago, just to show us the difference between an SR and an SPR. But this guy is also going to be some self-awakening, taking a card from your life to your hand, and he's going to KO something with 20k or less power. Because of cards like this, you have a fair amount of different strategies that are going to work pretty well between these 2 decks, right? So when you have 2 kinds of decks, when you have a Draw leader. It's the Wild Wild West. You will probably stay awakened. You will probably stay unawakened for 2 turns. Because you have your first turn and they have their first turn. Nobody can attack. Well, you have your first turn where you can attack. And yeah, then once you get to the attacking turns, right? You have your turn, your next turn where you're going to be able to play a Krillin, you know. And then, you know, if you went second, you'll get your like token and you can potentially play a 3-drop. So the main 2 things is your first 2 turns can very well be spent playing 2 Self-Awakeners if you draw correctly, and then being able to take 2 damage from a non-crit leader. You should be awakened after your first 2 turns. Going to your 3rd turn should be the turn where you flip over and have your stronger leader effect. This shifts a little bit if you're playing against a crit leader, because by them, the strategy should probably be more towards blocking their crit, whether you have a blocker on the board or more likely dropping counter from hand. You out combo their critical attacks and then follow up by playing a Self-Awakener, adding a body to the board to press them while also gaining a card from your life to your hand that normally was going to get critted away. So because of this, you have a little bit of a difference in this. And so against a crit leader, you may take 3 turns to awaken. If you have the perfect hand for defending yourself, maybe even 4 turns, but you're going to get all of that life back to your hand, hopefully. Now, a crit leader is going to be a little bit different, because if a crit leader is facing a non-crit leader, if a crit leader is facing a draw leader, you're probably going to want to elongate that first part of the unawakened game, because you are pressing their advantage roughly, and they are just trying to not have their advantage stripped away from them however possible. So that's a huge thing. And a crit leader may actually want to be on its front side very much so longer. Actually, I'm not even gonna say may. I believe a crit leader will want to be on its front side a lot longer than a non-crit leader. And then on top of that, we're going to move over to the 4th scenario. If a crit leader is facing a crit leader, that is going to be the most rough. The way I'm seeing it, because the crit leaders do not draw on their front side, there are probably going to be times where you just have to take a critical hit. You just can't really avoid it. Now, maybe a crit leader will have to play more blockers because they don't want to get caught against a crit deck and just start getting demolished depending on who has the better high roll in terms of hand advantage, in terms of what cards they draw. So I do believe that in the case of a crit leader, they might have to see more defense not to get caught on the other end of that keyword. However, they still will run Self-Awakening cards, because if you know that you're potentially in a space that you don't want to stay at 15 on your opponent's turn, you may want to awaken. We're going to have to actually test quite a bit to see how crit versus crit works, because the whole dynamic is different because of the no draw plus the crit. But when it comes to both of these cards, you do have a different hierarchy for also how they want to ball afterwards. On screen right now, I have just cards that are currently from the starter deck and the set. You see a 2-drop Vegeta that has crit, that's 15k. You have a 3-cost Beerus that's 20k that has crit, and when he attacks, he's gonna boost something else, another battle card. You have a 4-drop Gohan from the starter deck that has crit, that when he attacks, he gets to minus something by 10k, and in Dragon Ball, when something hits 0, it gets KO'd. So this is gonna potentially take away a blocker and leave the road open for a critical strike. And then you have a finisher in the form of the SR from the starter deck, the main focal card, the Goku, that has double strike, and on play he's going to actually try to remove something 20k or less. So both of these decks will use these cards, but both of these decks will use these cards differently. Goku will be able to awaken, right? And we're going to show his awakened side right now alongside Beerus's, so we can talk about them. We can talk about actually all 3 of these right now on screen. But starter deck Goku is going to draw 1 card when attacking, but he's also going to choose one of your battle cards once per turn, and it gains 5k power for the battle. This is offensive and defensive, allowing you to save cards hopefully, but also allowing you to press cards. However, I do think the more impressive one, while it requires your deck building to be tighter because it only affects Universe 7, is going to be the one from the set. which is going to say permanent your turn, all of your battle cards of Universe 7 and their special traits gain 5k power, and then when attacking you draw 1 card. This brings that 2-drop crit Vegeta up to 20k, which is neutral with an awakened leader. It brings Beerus up to 25k, which is 5k over an awakened leader. It brings your Gohan to 30k, which is a full 10k over awakened leader. It pushes all these U7 critical threats into overdrive, and pushing your opponent's life down to 0 without giving them life is a very important factor for stemming your opponent's advantage. However, we're now going to look at Beerus's awakened side, which is currently looking at, when attacking, draw 1 card, activate main once per turn, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and gains minus 1k power for the turn. This is going to be some nice removal for small blockers, clearing the way for your critical threats that we just described. So when your opponent tries to put their hands up, no. But also you can combine this with other effects to reach down to 0 power, like you can swing with Beerus and minus something down by 10, but then swing with Gohan and minus something down by 20, or by a total of 20 by minusing it by another 10, which could be removal for it. You can minus something by 10, and then you can play Goku and minus something by 30, or sorry, by 20, to be a total of 30, and that's just removal on its own. It's pretty nice. However, I will say that yeah, both of them kind of have value in different places. I do think these crit leaders very much so like being on their front side longer, where the draw leaders want to speed towards their awakening. I am liking the way these kind of go, but I do want to have more of the set release that we can test, because I do believe that it's not just as black and white as they might come off just on paper, the way people look at it. I do think these critical leaders are going to add another layer, and I do think these games are going to be a lot faster because of them and how they affect the game. So yeah, let me know how you guys feel in the comments. I know there was kind of a lot to digest in this 15 minutes, but I do think that we were looking at the starting of a complex, little system, little microcosm of strategy. It's just really, really, really cool. I'm digging what they're doing here. I do think they are taking some of their feedback from Masters. They're simplifying, smoothing, but also still trying to come with some of the complexity that we loved in that game. So I do want to see how this game grows alongside of Masters, and I am excited to see how this goes in the future. Look forward to more Dragon Ball Super content, Fusion World content in the upcoming days. We get more spoilers. I do want to branch into the other colors. There will be more discussion topics. I am going to probably, if you guys let me know in the comments that you want it, I can do just set reviews. We can talk about the spoiled cards, but I really just repost them in my Discord and on my Twitter, so they're all there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, and like I said, let's see if we can get this video to 100 likes, and if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll move on to the Patreon thank you portion of the video. Later. All right, we are back here again, thanking the members of the Patreon for giving this channel the extra bump it needs to succeed. I want to thank everybody for just coming out and trying to support me how you can. On this Patreon channel, you will be subject to, or privy to more articles that are way too long to put into video form, and we will start getting some Dragon Ball Super Fusion World ones out as soon as the set is more fully released and spoiled. You're also going to be privy to TCG giveaways on the releases of starter decks and booster sets and whatnot. So stay tuned for more of both of those things. And now I want to give a special vocal shout out to the Realm of Xers, the highest tier of my Patreon. Thanks for going the extra mile. BR, Bryce R, and Big Daddy Flapjack, I appreciate you guys to the max. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video or article. Later.